Hello, hi there. Welcome to another edition of 21 Minutes with KKB. I'm your host, Kwabna Chenchehinibuati. Today on the show, we speak to a seasoned lawyer. He happens also to be the vice president of one of the largest policy think tanks in Ghana, IMANI Ghana. He's also an activist, and they say that you really do not want to go up against him in court. I return in a jiffy to introduce my guest for today. Stay with us. Kofi Bentil is a seasoned lawyer, an activist, like I said, and the vice president of policy think tank IMANI Ghana. Kofi, good afternoon, and thanks for having us today.
Afternoon. Thanks for coming.
Good to see you. And I call you the activist, the ruthless activist, because that's what I've heard a lot of people say about you. That when it comes to activism, some of your ideas are very crazy. You like to do things to shake things up. Is that the case?
I mean, if you're an activist, what it means is that you are prepared to put yourself out and demand what you want, make sure that you can assert yourself. Many things bring that out of a person. It's basically passion. If somebody touches your mother, you will find the activist in you. All right. So it's what you're passionate about. Somebody touches somebody you love, the activist in you will come about. I love this country.
You are doing this very well with OccupyGhana. All of a sudden, we saw you in another group, different colors, new faces, Citizen Ghana movement. Why?
At this point, we believe the two institutions can coexist. We believe we are looking for the same things. But this is the fact for the record. I formed what is now OccupyGhana.
You, Kofi Bentil, you formed OccupyGhana.
I formed what is now OccupyGhana.
And not Ace and Kuma, as many have been led to believe?
No. Ace and Kuma, in fact, Ace and Kuma joined after. Ace and Kuma joined several meetings after. Some of the leading members now joined a number of meetings after it had been formed. We did the Occupy Flagstaff House demonstration. After that particular march, which really achieved a lot, the Monday after I went to their office, and as I sat in my office, I realized something. Something just dawned on me that we should try and continue what has been started. And what do I mean by continue, and what do I want to continue? The street activism. Again, at Imani, we had done all the intellectual analysis and the radio analysis and all those things. So I said, what we needed in this country now was to show the government that people were serious. We were serious about doom, so fix it. We were serious about this, fix it. And we were not just going to talk, we were going to put people on the streets to confront the government and let them know this is what you ought to do. We demand it. So I looked through the people who had come for the Occupy Flagstaff House. George Anda was there, he stayed throughout with us. Okay, Izankuma came and gave an interview and left. Okay, but he was there. Atubonfo was there. Isi Ansan was there. Philip Ayesu was there. So I recollected some of the people. Yofi Grant was there. Ken Oferiata was there. Many people. You can see the video. So as many as I knew, and whose numbers I had, I called them. So the persons who constituted, Occupy Ghana from the beginning, I called all of them. And I called them, and each person I called, I said, look, we need to meet and figure out a way to maintain the pressure, to force the government to be better at governance. And that is how Occupy Ghana today was formed. The question of why Citizen Ghana movement, I'll say this now. Some of us thought we needed to make a strong statement about Doomsaw. We needed to force the government to do more. I had been on Joy FM for over a year with Dr. Roku Brobe when this thing started. And I remember clearly when it started, the analysis was that the government needed to find emergency power because the cost of not having power was too much. And emergency power being expensive should not be the ultimate. After that, we should now work towards solving the problem properly. The government sat down for 2-3 years and didn't find the emergency power. 2-3 years down the line, now they say they are going to bring emergency power. And it was going to cost us an arm and a leg. Everything was all over the place. And even that was funny. We don't have time to go into all the things, but clearly they were mismanaging the problem. And Dumsor went from bad to worse. There were people who were dying. And you remember the person that, we used as the front, Yvonne Nelson. Her mother was going blind. I could tell you story after story after story. It was just a terrible mess. So in Occupy Ghana, a number of us said we needed to do something to force the government to take Dumsor seriously and do something definite about Dumsor. That is what broke us up. Many of the members said no, they were not in for another demonstration. And,
including Neisankoma?
I prefer not to use names, okay? But clearly there was a split. That is one of the main things. They were not in favor of the continued street action. They wanted us to do a number of other things, some of which we were okay with, but some of us said this is why we formed this thing. When it comes to talking, I talk more than anybody. When it comes to argue, we argue. So this is where you need to put your skin on the line and show that you're serious about what you're doing.
So one group preferred a more diplomatic approach to things, as in issuing press releases and the like.
Yes.
And then another section
felt that
you needed more boots on the ground.
We needed boots on the ground to make this, more serious, because again, if it comes to Imani, there's no debate we're afraid of. Okay, so now this is what the new thing is, what we have to do. And the important point is we were not a hired crowd. You have lawyers and engineers and doctors, professors on the street. That was a huge message. And you needed to do that to send that message to the people in power. But, well, that was one problem. The other problem had to do with what we think was too much politicization of, the whole idea. There were people from different places. We were all anti-bad governance. I'm choosing my words well. We were all against the bad governance we were experiencing. Okay, none of us had a personal problem per se with President John Mahama. No, I personally don't have a problem with him. We were anti-bad governance. But in effect, we were anti-government. That did not mean we were doing MPP's bidding. We knew clearly that what we were doing was going to inure to the benefit of the MPP. And many of us were sympathetic to the MPP, and we had a right to be. But we made a conscious decision that we're going to make this thing apolitical. It wasn't going to be a tool for any politician's, purpose. And the interesting thing was that many MPP people loved that. Many MPP people who were fighting the government as MPP people loved the fact that now there was another fight, which was not necessarily a fight for power per se. It was not an MPP fight, but it was a credible fight in the name of Ghana. But down the line, the issues surrounding, my brother George and his running for office, we had agreed that when, he filed for office, he was going to step down. It became an issue here and there, back and forth. So that became another problem that we had to deal with, and that's also for the record. Dealing with that led to quite a lot of disagreement. Then there was another issue. I mean, I've said here for the record that I called the people together to form what is now Occupy Ghana. I have said here for the record that it was Nana Kwesi Wua who organized with his friends in CGRG, Occupy Flagstaff House. We went for a meeting one day and we realized that certain persons had gone and registered Occupy Ghana and put their names there as directors or something. And we're like, oh, what's going on? And they said, oh, well, if anybody wanted to, be part of that group, then fine, we'll put them on. And I remember clearly that Nana Kwesi said, okay, that he wanted to be in that group because at least he started this thing, and I backed him up. Personally, it wasn't interesting to me. I don't do this for position, so personally, I never really asked for anything. But it was a problem because even though they had said, oh, anybody who wants to come in can come in, then we'll put their name on, they refused to put Nana Kwesi on. They dilly-dallied about the issue, and it was clear that they didn't want to do that. And I asked myself, what is all that for? We left our work. I mean, and these are not people who are small people. I mean, they have their lives to live. So I wonder what all this was about. But it was upsetting. And I've given you a number of things. The politics, the, street action that they refused, that acrimony that was generally brewing in the group, things like registering, and a couple of things. And for over a month, we were just at each other's throats, and it was not healthy. It got to a point where we were dysfunctional. We couldn't agree.
OccupyGhana was dysfunctional?
It was dysfunctional. It got to a point where we couldn't agree on what to do. And for some of us and that was the height of, the struggle for change. So we thought we're losing time, okay? And Dumso was getting worse. There were things for us to do. It got to a time when the, noise level became too loud, okay? And the fights were open, Some people stopped coming for meetings. Others would come and just be apathetic and were just looking, and others were going on. There are a number of things that I can't and won't say. Comments that were made, all kinds of things. Again, I said we have made our peace. But I'm saying these things for the record. It got to the point, some of us decided, okay, we will just leave this thing for you guys to do it the way you want, and then we will go do what we want to do.
Do you see yourself ever rejoining OccupyGhana?
Oh, again, you see, Ghana is better off that we have both Citizen Ghana and OccupyGhana. Citizen Ghana did Dumso Must Stop. At the time, we were not called Citizen Ghana, but we did Dumso Must Stop, okay? If we had stayed in OccupyGhana, I wouldn't have done Dumso Must Stop. And Dumso Must Stop, I'm telling you, was the beginning of the end of Dumso. All right? And so I am happy that the two exist today. Ask, do I want to go back and join OccupyGhana? Let me put it this way. OccupyGhana was at a point extremely powerful and could have done so many things. The split took something out. And none of us is what we used to be.
Why don't you just merge? Of course, you're stronger together.
Why don't we just stay apart? And
because like you alluded to, you are both weaker as individual entities.
Yes, but we still do things. Okay, we do things differently. So if we were one, we are likely to do one thing. Now we do two different things. And you see, it's a different time now. I think that each period has what it throws up. Okay, like I said, we stepped out to fight against bad governance. I would do it again if I have to do it. It doesn't matter who is in power. If we experience the levels of bad governance we experienced under the past government, we will remobilize and we will do everything we need to do to make sure that we have the governance we need for this country. It will not happen quickly that we'll get a Nelson Mandela or a Lee Kuan Yew, but we will keep fighting till we get the right people in leadership in this country.
One of the issues you raised was that OccupyGhana was at a point in time becoming too political. So because of that, you felt you had to step aside and do something with Citizen Ghana movement. But even as Citizen Ghana movements, you've been accused of being very political, very unneutral, if I'm to use that word.
I don't remember any criticism like that. I don't.
That a lot of people have come out to say you're not very neutral. You seem to be saying a lot of things, pushing a lot of things for the NPP government. The way and manner in which you used to criticize the Mahama government has not been felt since you moved to Citizen Ghana, and of course, since the NPP came to power.
No, one, I have not heard that many criticisms about Citizen Ghana not being neutral. That's one. That being said, we hold the position that in the face of bad governance and wrong, the person who declares neutrality has taken the side of wrong. So people should get this neutrality thing right. I've said it before publicly. We are independently minded, but we are not neutral. At the time that the previous government was in place and was doing the wrong thing, we were set against the government. We were not neutral. We wanted a change in government. The only way we will move from wanting a change in bad governance is if the present government changes. This government is doing better than the previous government, but they are just a year and a half old. Okay. Now, if this government becomes like what we were fighting against, we will mobilize against them too. So we are not neutral. Citizen Ghana has people from all kinds of political persuasions, but we have bound ourselves that we will not let our political persuasion, okay, affect what we do. It's Ghana first. So I haven't heard the criticisms, but what people must appreciate is that we are not just out to rabble rouse and give trouble to governments. We are there to make sure that we will be watchdogs.
Are you saying as of now there aren't enough issues to cry over?
Well, who says we are not crying? We are crying, but the crime must be measured and intelligent.
We didn't hear you say similar things some years back when Mahama was in government.
You're
talking about
the
the
previous
gravity?
government had 8 years, and we ended in a bad mess. And over the 8-year period, at least from Imani, we were talking. When the talking didn't have the necessary effect, we stepped out on the streets.
So are you talking now?
We are talking now.
Is it having the necessary impact?
Honestly, yes. When I say yes, and I say hesitatingly, is that we are being listened to, okay? And we see effort. Time will tell whether that's window dressing or not. And I've said it over and over again. If we don't find that the governance or the good governance levels we require, okay, are in place, then we'll mobilize differently. For now, we are not having the arguments we used to have in the past, where people will tell you, yeah, until we are. Okay. Now when you make a case, you are listened to, and at least you see some effort in trying to fix issues. You will not or may not get everything you want done, and you may not get the kind of outcomes that you want. But when you see effort, you must appreciate and acknowledge it. All right? So it's a year and a half. Not everything is perfect. Okay, but we think that we are moving generally in the right direction.
In a year and a half, we've had quite a number of issues of alleged corruption in the government. There are people who are fighting with the CEOs of a lot of state organizations over one corrupt activity or the other. And you're saying it's not enough to get you wowed, get boots on the ground.
If you name them, you will find that there is some action on these things. One, you have to give time for the action. Sometimes what you find is that if the action was a window dressing, if the action was intended to clear people, if the action was not sincere, the outcomes will show that this government, well, they didn't want to do anything. We are not there yet. Allow them to do what they say they want to do, investigate and find the people and prosecute them or whatever it is. It takes time for these things to happen. And we are watching, I'm telling you, my brother, we are watching. Already, you seem to say we are not pushing hard enough. Some people think we are pushing too hard. So we have to, play a balancing game. But we are watching, and time has shown that our, allegiance is to the country. It's not to any political party. So, in short, we think this government is trying. We think it's too early to declare, okay, that they have given up on, corruption. They've given up on everything, the way we felt in the past government. We hope it doesn't come to that, but if it comes to that, you'll hear from us.
You in particular, Kofi Bentil, you've been accused of being NPP. They say you are biased and that. Even your president, the president of IMANI Ghana, has stayed consistent, has been very critical of government. But all we hear you do is praise singing. Is that the case?
Are you sure I've been praise singing?
Oh,
go and check my Facebook today. Today on my Facebook, I'm criticizing the government. And I've criticized the government on different issues, on various issues. When they do wrong, I say
well, one thing I do recall you criticized was the elephant-sized government.
I criticized it and I told the president directly, this is wrong. And I've consistently said so. I still insist we don't need 110 people. I have criticized the government for recreating the civil service. And today the civil servants are striking on that issue. I've criticized the government on so many different things. All right. And honestly, some people in MPP think I'm too critical of MPP. But the point is, you'll be surprised that during MPP time, some people felt that we had been paid, including myself, to do, that work. So you can please everybody. And honestly, I admit that I sense better management, for instance, of the economy. I sense better governance now. Okay, I don't assume it's going to last forever.
So for instance, utterances such as this, utterances such as, Bawumia will be a great leader, Bawumia should be president of Ghana. I mean, such utterances give people the impression that, this man obviously should be coming from that fold.
I appreciate that. And you can imagine that I don't say those things lightly. And I'm not a coward. And like I said, the MPP people know that I criticize them, strongly. But
because you want them to sit up.
Because I want them to sit up. But you see, at that point, when I made those statements, I was pushed to make some declarations. In fact, I wrote a few things about it. I was criticizing the government about, the arrest of Kofi.
Yeah.
I was criticizing them about, the U.S. Army thing and a number of things. And apparently, the NDC people were very happy with it, and it became a political party thing. And I had to set the record straight and say that, look, personally, I am not neutral, but I think independently. NPP does not influence my thinking. NDC does not influence my thinking. I think I have enough brains to make up my mind for myself. And on my own assessment, I believe presently, if you look across the political scene, okay, the best person to take over after President Nana Addo will be Mahmoud Bawumia.
Would you vote for him?
If he continues the way he's going, if he continues to give me the confidence he gives me, he's really come a very long way. Okay? People deteriorate. All kinds of things can happen. But I have no problem saying that if nobody emerges to give me greater confidence, then absolutely I might vote for Mahmoud Bawumia.
You voted out John Mahama, did you?
Well,
and you voted for MPP.
No, hold on. No, I know where you're going. You're trying to force me to declare how I voted. You're not going to
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Well,
I'm
you're
just
telling me I voted out John Mahama.
It was a question.
It was a question.
Did you?
Did I vote out John Mahama?
Of course.
You're asking me how I voted.
Based on the kind of things you said, Dumso was crazy. You've alluded to a lot of issues with governance at the time, bad governance, and it got to a deplorable state, or so you say. Of course, there's no way you're going to vote for such a person.
Well,
Is that the case?
I worked for a change in government.
And if you had an opportunity to effect that change by voting out the existing president, would you not take it?
I will leave that to your imagination.
In half of the NPP government, from where you sit, I can see your transit suggests you are quite okay with their performance, but which areas do we need to look out for?
It's not very accurate to say I am quite okay. I say to say I'm totally satisfied. I worry about the size of government, like you said. I worry about the cost of government. We're in a country of 29 million people, 600,000 civil servants, 275 parliamentarians, 110 ministers, special assistants, all kinds of people. The growth industry in this country today is government. It's a drain on all of us. I worry about that. Now, the performance of this large number of people supposedly making life better for the rest of us is abysmal. Okay, I worry about that.
The performance of the NPP government has been abysmal so far.
The performance of all the people running this country who are supposed to be making life easy for us is abysmal. That's why even with the improvements in the passport office, you will still not be able to get a passport. The parliament today there, okay, sat and passed, our parliament, maybe it's not the same set of people, but our parliament passed, for instance, Act 2180 for the toll levy, which I fought against. Okay, you ask yourself, did they read it? All right, so I am not happy with the performance and not happy with the size of our government. There are a number of other things too that give me cause, for concern. We've just, inaugurated this NAPCOP thing. I think it's YE, and I've said it publicly that we must be very careful not to get into the same problems we got into JIDA with. All right. Today, I am hearing about GVG.
Yeah.
Okay, GVG is a telecoms company which is extremely corrupt, and that is very well documented. It's been driven out of many countries because of its corruption and incompetence. And here we are, okay, going to bring them in what looks like a sole source tender.
How much is involved? $89 million?
Well, we are hearing $89 million on air, but I have seen a document that says it's over $170 million.
170
I
million?
have seen a document that says it's over $170 million, and it was sole source more or less. Okay, so look, we are hearing things that are wrong, we are seeing things that are wrong, and I've taken a lot of time to say that we are not throwing our hands in the air and say that all is lost, but there's a lot to worry about. And the president will need to sit up. This government has scored the worst in the corruption perception index. Yeah. We have problems going on at BOST that we are not sure, okay, how we will handle it, because once, twice, three times it's going on. All right, and a couple of things popping up here and there which give us cause for worry. So despite all the good news and all the hard work that is being done, clearly there's a lot of work to be done, and not just to be done, but a lot of things to watch out and not repeat. These are the things that threw us onto the streets. And it will be sad if the government that replaced the previous one goes in the same direction. We are still here.
This is a huge case of alleged corruption, and we are yet to hear or see any statement from Citizen Ghana movement or even your counterpart Occupy Ghana. $170 million for a job which some say is non-existent, a job that has already been done. It's huge.
Yes, it's huge.
And what are you doing about it?
Well, have you read the IMANI statement? IMANI has put out a statement. Yes, IMANI has. And I'm vice president. I'm senior vice president of IMANI. So
Okay, Franklin sent me something yesterday.
Yes.
I believe that's...
So
okay.
IMANI has put out a statement. And we've put out a statement to the effect that this is bad. If even they have a good enough excuse, GVG is known to be incompetent and corrupt. So what's going on? Now, this is the same job that Suba was supposed to do, Suba and AfriWave some time back. Yeah. And going through it, everybody who looked at it said, this is bad. Well, they still maintain that it was necessary, and so they allowed Suba to do it. Suba is a Ghanaian company as we speak. We still insist that that job didn't need to be done the way we did it, and we're paying money for it. All right. But for the past 5 years or so, Suba has been doing it. Okay. So we are left to choose between a local person doing a job we say is not necessary, or a foreign person coming to do the job we say is not necessary.
Who will be taking more anyway?
Who will be taking more, and who has clearly a terrible track record of corruption. Okay. So these are the terrible choices that, you know, we are left with as citizens. And I believe Occupy Ghana is looking at it. I believe Citizen Ghana is looking at it. IMANI has already put out a statement, okay, for this. And in the coming days and weeks, we will see how this will pan out.
There's this thing about government changing the name of the University for Professional Studies, Accra. I heard somewhere that you used to represent the founder of that university.
Yeah, I'm his lawyer.
You still represent him?
Yeah.
So then you should be happy about this.
Oh, I'm happy about it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm happy about it.
But what's the point? You're changing the name from the UPSA to Opoku Mpoma University?
You know, I was making a lot of public statements about the fact you don't discourage private enterprise. Here is a man who by himself set up what is now a university with his own money, with his own land. Okay? And a government later comes and takes it over without compensation.
He was compensated. There's evidence to show he was compensated.
No. You see, if I take your shoe, which is worth 1,000 cedis, and I say, here's 2 cedis, that's an insult. It's not a compensation. The fact that he was given something at a certain time, and some of those things were not even official. When he cries and cries and cries, somebody says, oh, look, find something for him. Okay. And I made public statements to the fact that it is wrong. The man is still alive, even though he was very weak and sick. And I said, this country should do better for this man. Well, incidentally, he has children, he has people around, that kind of thing. I happen to be a lawyer too. Okay, so they hired me, and we went and had meetings at the UPSA. We wrote letters, we made representations, we went back and forth. We came to a certain agreement. Okay, the UPSA leadership then accepted that, yes, they owed the man some recognition. They accepted that, yes.
A block was named after him. Was that not enough? Do you need to name the entire school after him?
I'll come to the naming of the school, but the point I want to make is a matter of principle. As a country, we must accept that there are sins of the past that we should not continue. And to whatever extent it is possible to make amends for those sins, we should. This is one of those sins of the past. And in my representation of the gentleman, I managed to get the school to admit that, yes, they owed him something. And so there were agreements about what they were going to do for him, which indeed they were doing.
Okay.
Then this president comes into office and says, look, at the end of the day, this thing, let's just cut to the chase and name the school after him. Okay. That atones for the sins of the past.
Isn't necessary at all. I mean, that has been the...
Is it necessary to give people what is due them?
Did the man request for a name change? Did he want...
He did not.
So a gentleman who sets up an institution with his own money, on his own volition, decides to name it the Institute for Professional Studies, not the Opokuampoma University. And then after several years down the line, our government takes over, gives him some compensation. He says, well, the compensation is not enough. Well, he's given some monthly stipends and a few other things. Well, blocks in the school are named after him. Other facilities in there are named after him. He's revered in the school. And I set up the thing. I didn't want it named after me. And then you come and say, oh, no, I want to honor you. I want to name it after you. What's the point?
Well, I think that when the decision came that it would be named after him, he must have been consulted.
Are you aware of that?
I cannot divulge the discussions I have with my client, but he must have been consulted. He must have agreed to it. I've said that it is a symbolism. It's the fact that we are correcting the sins of the past. And this government is going very far to say that, look, we acknowledge what you've done. I think that is right. I've said that the naming itself is symbolic because it has to go to Parliament before it becomes legally binding. So I think those processes will have to be done. We shouldn't spend too much time arguing about this. I think, in fact, the ultimate would be for us to give his property back to him, which is what we've done for some people. Professor Buzia's properties, some of them were given, we're looking for Nkrumah's properties to give back to him. It is wrong for the state to take somebody's just earned property.
Many believe it was a test case for naming the University of Ghana as the J.B. Dankwa University of Ghana. And how would that even pan out? The J.B. Dankwa University of Ghana?
Like you said, many believe, okay, the belief of many people, no matter how many they are, does not constitute fact, okay? I think this whole discussion, yes, I admit I was part of it, about J.B. Dankwa's role in the formation of the University of Ghana came up because of the remarks that the president made at the endowment fund function. We must separate fact from emotion.
What's the fact?
The fact is that there were many people involved in the founding and the formation of the University of Ghana.
J.B. Dankwa played a key role, or so we are
But
told.
of the many people who were involved, my reading of our history, my reading of the history of the University of Ghana clearly shows that none of them were as instrumental as Dr. J.B. Dankwa. Okay, that does not mean we should name it after him. The fact of history must be made clear. Many countries fight for independence. Many countries shed blood for independence. In Ghana, we did not shed blood for independence. We have a narrative of our history which is not accurate. And I say that publicly. The 3 ex-servicemen who went to, collect their salaries were not fighting for independence. They went to collect their salary. They were promised salaries that they were not getting. And they went to ask the governor, where is our money? They were shot. That was tragic. The politicians took advantage of that. And in the process, we ended up getting our independence. Fact must be made clear. It is to our credit that as a country, we were able to negotiate and get the Queen to give us independence. It is to our credit that our independence is the product of our intellect. It is to our credit as a people that we've never had a civil war. That no matter how deep our differences, we sit and the power of our mind brings us some sort of consensus. It is to our credit that we have not had to go into a war, kill people, shed blood and everything, just for our self-determination. I want to tell my children that you come from people who have the capability in their brain to sit with white people and convince them to give them self-government. That is why the Queen's representative was here to give us independence.
Kofi, many thanks for your time.
Thank you
on
too.
21 Minutes with KKB. Kofi Bentil, as you do know him, he's a seasoned lawyer, and of course, today he has taken us down memory lane. He has given us some history lessons as well. Oh, of course, he will not go without argument or some debates, as often is the case. But he's given us some very, very interesting perspectives to a lot of things, including that very issue of why Citizen Ghana movement broke away from OccupyGhana. Well, I'll be hoping to hear your side of the issue and your analysis of whatever it is that has been said, just opposing that with whatever it is we heard from another leading member of OccupyGhana, Ace Anan Ankuma. It's been another edition of 21 Minutes with KKB. My name is Kwabena Chenche. I'll see you soon, hopefully, with another guest you're expecting.